Thanks for tuning in to the Palm Beach Podcast, a weekly show highlighting people making a positive impact in our community. With your hosts, sports chiropractor and athletic trainer, Dr. James Spencer, photographer and art director, Mike Jones. Our show is brought to you by Pumphouse Coffee Roasters, the Lotus Travel Company, Hopportunities Self-Serve Beer Hall, and the Bishop's Water Company. Hello, and welcome to the Palm Beach Podcast. My name is Mike Jones. I'm at Media Zone in Palm Beach County with some fantastic human beings. Dr. James Spencer, how you doing today, buddy?
Beautiful driving over that Blue Heron Bridge with these sunny blue skies.
We're fortunate to live where we live. It's true.
It is. We're lucky. And we have a special guest in the studio today. We have Brie of the Florida Yoga Mama. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much for having me.
And how do you say your last name?
Mazin, like amazing.
I love it.
I know. I was like, wait.
I had to put her on the spot.
Yeah.
So yeah, welcome to the studio. And, the listeners are going to be very lucky to have you on today and to share your story. So why don't we jump in?
Sure. So I've been teaching yoga for over 10 years. I found it at a time in my life where I really needed it. I thought I had it all when it comes to happiness and things on the outside. But the truth is there was a big lack on the inside. And living in Manhattan and doing the whole Hamptons lifestyle and red carpet events, but at the same time, knowing that there was something more. And I stumbled upon a yoga class in Boca and I was hooked. I was like, I want to feel this way and I'm intrigued to learn more. And from there, I got my 200-hour teacher training and have been teaching ever since.
Was it the teacher, or was it the class, or the feeling?
Good question. I think it was a combination of all the above. I went to a well-known teacher in South Florida, and I always tell my students it's important to connect with the teacher because you could take a yoga class and it just not be your cup of tea, but it could be not the connection with the teacher or perhaps the music or the style. There are so many components that come into your yoga experience, and you have to try several to figure out the one for you.
Yeah, and that's what I've always realized too. And we've talked about this is you may find a different location. I may drive out of my way to go somewhere, but it's the experience that I'm really enjoying versus the yoga session itself. So I love hearing that.
I've always thought it's really cool how we say we're practicing yoga, right? Like I love that it's like you're never perfect. We're always getting better. Like one day my tree might be a little more balanced or rooted than other days. And that's just like such a cool way to think about it. It's like I'm not doing yoga, I'm practicing, right?
It's always evolving. There's no finality, right? Like at the very end of class, even in Shavasana, there's still magic unfolding. And I always say too, there are no classes that will ever be the same. Every time you roll out your mat, it could be a different environment, a different teacher. It could be the way you slept, what you ate. There are so many components that come into play, and no two classes will ever be the same. Even if you wore the exact same outfit on the exact same day, it doesn't matter.
Well, it's always easier to blame like the outside stuff, right?
Of course, external, absolutely.
It's the where I am in the room,
Yeah.
or it's like anything else, but no one ever wants to do that, like looking on the inside stuff, right?
That's where all the answers are.
Truly.
Really.
I actually saw like a really cool, I don't know, when you're scrolling through Instagram and you get those little 15-second snippets, and it was some like Indian yogi guru, and he said, if you don't brush your teeth for 3 days, your nose can't smell it, but everyone else in the room can. And I was like, wow, that's like so powerful. And it's just one of those things where because you get so accustomed and used to yourself and your environment, it's like you don't notice. And I was like, okay, thank you, little 15-second highlight of the day.
Little gem.
But it's so cool and it's so true, really,
Yeah, so go on with your story. Continue.
Yeah, just to touch on that, something that I do that's really funny in my classes is if I see people go to a particular spot and they think they're in the back hiding out, I'll turn the class. So they'll actually become my front row. But it's good for the student because they think they're in their comfortable, safe. And then they realize, you know what? It's not so bad. I never noticed the tree that was above me here. Or I didn't realize that I actually do know more than I thought I did. So it's all about evolving. And I love doing that as
getting
a
out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the growth occurs, right?
You would hope so. Not a lot of people like to go there, though.
Yeah, for most. So go ahead.
So yeah, this is all part of my journey. Since COVID, I've really put myself out there more online, and I have reached people internationally, and it's really cool to see them log in. I've had aunts and cousins and mothers and daughters, and it's just really neat to see them kind of communicating like, hey, we're about to do class. I'm logging in from here. And it really put me out of my comfort zone, just like we were talking about, because I never wanted to mess up, right? Like I'm in front of the camera. But what I've realized is when I show my veil comes down, my armor comes down, and I'm a little vulnerable, it gives other people to realize like they can do that too. And we're all human and no one wants the perfection. I've found that I'm having such success on social media as well by showing those vulnerabilities because people can relate. And then you connect with them, and then it leads to A, B, C, and D, which you didn't even know if you didn't let that armor down.
And it's really just putting the ego in check, and it's raw. Willingness again to grow, to connect, to share, and look how your global footprint is really starting to spread out because of that.
It's so cool. I mean, 3 weeks ago, I was putting out there how my toddler wasn't sleeping, and I was just exhausted, living on coffee, complaining, and ready to find a solution. And within 2 days of putting it out there on social media, I hired a sleep coach who was like, I'm doing this reality TV show. Do you want to be on it? And I'm like, okay. And now we just filmed the pilot for her reality TV show. But again, if I didn't open up and share that, and now we've formed a connection where we'll be probably in each other's lives for the rest of each other's lives. And again, if I didn't let that out there and show that we're struggling, and now our son's sleeping perfectly. And I'm like, why didn't I call her before?
It's funny how that works.
And I think that's something that we can say, like for last year, that we're grateful for is like, one, we've learned that accessibility through technology is great, but then also I think we're appreciating more like that in-person connection, where it's like before the whole distancing stuff went down last year, like everyone was always so busy to even be busy. And now I think that like when you see people getting together, like it's really, really nice. Like the hugs are a little bit stronger. The thank yous are a little more sincere. And yeah, truly, I think we can all feel grateful that hopefully we're appreciating that what we have is so precious, and the time that we spend with our friends is really,
that connection.
Yeah,
exactly.
We need that connection. I mean, I do a lot of outdoor classes, and just seeing people come there again and hug each other and just be so grateful, whether we're on the beach at sunrise or I've taught at Greenwise right outside the storefront in Boca. It's so nice because everyone just missed that interaction so much. And you see each other. Mm-hmm. I see you. And let's experience whatever we're about to experience together and be fully present.
I like that. Yeah. And the one thing that will never be lost is human to human connection and touch. And when I was going through chiro school, that was one of the best pieces of advice that I ever received was when you touch somebody, you never realize how that's going to affect them. And it may be the grandma who lost her husband that you're just placing your hand on, or actually a transfer of energy. But that was something that I felt with the hybrid models and everything that was going on, that the in-person connection and conferences and workshops, they'll never be lost because of how tight-knit that energy is.
For sure. And I think we did a really good job through COVID to be safe and to figure out new ways. I work with this one woman, we do retreats together, who does what they call myofascia release. So it was hard because we couldn't touch each other. So we just got creative. We got some foam rollers, and we're outside 6 feet apart, and we just made it work. But now the next time we come together, it's going to be...
Let me dig in.
Yeah. I mean, let's go.
Well, my favorite part of one of the studios that I go to here in Palm Beach County is in Shavasana, the cold towel and the thumb press on the third eye. It's like euphoric, it gives me chills to even just think about. It's hard to do that at home. Like it's hard enough to do Shavasana as it is, because everyone's already like on to the next thing. They're in their head already doing the grocery list and and who they have to text back. So there is something special about that energy of the room. Like everyone almost starts breathing together, and yeah, truly, it's not replicating over the internet as well.
And something that I do when students are in Shavasana is I'll say, you know, would you like to be touched?
Yeah.
Leave your palms facing up to receive, right? And if they're not ready for whatever reason, like you were saying, maybe it's a past trauma, maybe it's fear, they can put their palm down. And I'll usually give the shoulders a little love. I even do something where I pull their legs and then I push down on their calves and finish out with their feet, because there's so much there in acupuncture, as I'm sure you know, that it really brings them to just that next level of relaxation.
And to your point about being present, I really resonate with that, because too often it's easy to look at the laundry list or the phone or the TV and keep moving forward or falling forward. But when you're fully present, a lot of internal connection and conversation happens. And for the balance stuff that I'm doing, if you're not fully present on the balance beam, there's no chance that you can stay on that. And so it's very self-limiting, and it's also like awareness is curative. And knowing that you're not aware, well, let me make you aware that, hey, you must be fully aligned and fully present here. And then you're going to see the change and feel the change.
So the mind is either going to the future, right? Thinking of your to-do list, like you were saying, or revisiting something from the past. And through yoga, a lot of the breathing is helpful to bring someone right back to the present moment, or a mantra, affirmation. That's the thing with the yoga for me. Of course, the physical benefits are incredible. That's one component. Many people come, I can't do yoga, I'm not flexible. Well, that's even more reason, right? But for me, it's the only exercise I do now, because it is about cardiovascular and about strength and endurance and toning and lengthening. But the magic happens when the mind, the body, and the breath are connected. That is what makes yoga different than any other exercise out there. And as I mentioned, there are so many different styles. There are restorative practices. There are hot yoga practices where it's the same pose in the same exact order. My personal favorite is vinyasa yoga, where no two classes are ever the same. I could have a theme about open hearts. I could have a theme about something in the chakra system, the energy channels, and you will get something different from each of the classes, right? But Yin yoga is probably one of my more popular classes, because we get deep into the connective tissue and the longer holds. And again, it's very meditative, because the mind is going all kinds of places and your body's kind of saying, I want out of this pose. It's been a long time. But just when you get out of that fight or flight mode and you ease into it, you just feel so open and so amazing and so clear to take on whatever is coming your way.
So you're saying you can't just do the splits in one day?
Nope.
Like you have to work on that
you have to
over
work
a while?
on it.
Well, and I think that relates to what you said before you came in, is like, I had a vision board, right? Will you tell us a little bit about how that went down for you?
Absolutely. So I, from the outside, looked like I had it all. I was living on Park Avenue in Manhattan, running my video production company. But there was a part that was missing, and I read The Secret, all about laws of attraction. And I was like, you know what? I've got nothing to lose. Let me make a vision board. And I attended a workshop. So there were other people also cutting out their magazines and putting out what they want to attract. So we're going back now 11 years.
Wow.
And on my vision board, I wanted to meet somebody. I knew I wanted a family. I knew I wanted to build a home, to travel, to be successful and reach people and live a healthy lifestyle. And I looked back on that vision board, and every single part of it turned into my reality. And I just feel so blessed, and I don't take it for granted. Even on the days where I'm feeling a little bit stressed or overwhelmed, I remember that this is the life I prayed for. This is what was on my vision board. I'm married to an amazing guy who supports me in everything I do. He's my biggest advocate. And even though he's behind the scenes in a lot of it, it's because of him I am where I am. And he really believes in me and gives me that confidence to go shine my light with the world.
And that's special. I think everybody deserves that. And really just, you got to love yourself before you can love somebody else too.
And I was really ready.
So we had one of our past guests. He didn't share it on his episode, but he told somebody to vision board his future, and the person cut out a house from a magazine that was like on a lake on the water, And I think he said like 6 or 7 years later, his realtor said like, hey, there's a property that became available. Can I show it to you? And it was literally the house that he clipped out of a magazine. And it was just like, okay, yeah, that is freaky, but it's cool. I want that.
Yeah.
And it truly is one of those things where if you don't say it, you can't believe it, right? So write it down or say it out loud, and then you can make it a reality.
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking to one of my baseball pitchers about that. He said, I want to throw 94 miles an hour. And I said, write it down every day.
Yeah.
And he actually threw 96.
We'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. So it was cool for him to buy in, believe, and then get the result. And now he's telling all of the younger guys, all the minor league guys, like, hey, this is something that you need to actually pursue. So it was cool.
So cool.
Let's talk about the types of services that you would offer. I saw prenatal. Is that something that you, like a specific niche that you're working in?
Yeah.
Or?
So I loved learning about prenatal. I practiced through all 3 pregnancies because each pregnancy is different. And if you are given the tools when your birth plan doesn't go according to plan, or
like
your
typically,
right, it's great to know that you have these tools in your box that you can revisit anytime. So that's one of my favorite classes to teach. There's a lot of physicality that goes into that one as well, because of course you don't want to do any deep twists or folding. You want to kind of think of the basketball that you're protecting, right? But again, it goes back to the student as well, because a lot of it is honoring their intuition and what feels right for them. Some people don't want to lie on their back because what's that nerve? You probably know that you don't want to.
Yeah, well, there's a few, but
Right.
sciatic nerve for sure.
So we avoid lying on the back for some people. You go on the side for your shavasana instead. So that's one of my favorite kinds of yoga to teach. And then I would say my most popular, like I mentioned, is the yin yoga. And I have a lot of seniors in that class. I have a student who's 90 years old.
So awesome.
Yeah. So
It's just cool to hear those 2 words in the same sentence. Sorry to interrupt, but 90-year-old student.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
right. Or think of embryo to senior. I mean,
Correct.
anybody could get these values that have been for thousands of years in the yoga world. It's life-changing.
Never too late.
Never too late.
No, and listen, that's going to keep us young.
Right.
Being able to be strong and balanced and mentally clear.
Yeah.
It's only going to allow us to live till we're 100, 105, 110.
Love it.
Well, and I always enjoyed like the hot like Bikram or Vinyasa because literally you're just trying to stay alive. Like you can't do anything but breathe and keep moving.
Sweat out all the toxins.
Of course. And it's just like one of those things where like the stretching and the stuff is of course great, right? Like, but I really appreciated like the physicality part of it. And I would see these like 60, 70-year-old women that are just like so much stronger than I am on the mat. And I would just be like, what the heck? You know, like I thought going to the gym, and then you see like you use different muscles. There's different balancing. There's different techniques.
They're more mentally tough than you two.
Sure. Yeah, I know. And I'm not
Right.
shy to admit it. I'm like, dang, I want to get better.
Well, and that's what an opportunity to. Right?
Sure.
I taught varsity football players
Yeah.
2 months ago.
Nice.
And it was so cool for me because they come out there and they're all like, you know, we got this. And I was like, really? And I pushed them and they did amazing, but they couldn't believe how challenging it was. And to see them kind of disconnect from the cell phones and really be present was pretty profound for me, to see that these guys can come in thinking they, you know, are about to know what's going down, and they were pleasantly surprised. And by the end, seeing them all in the shavasana relaxing, and then the coach texted me, they were so sore the next day. They didn't know their hips could open like that, their shoulders, but all the range of motion, everything kind of was at that next level.
Yeah, downward dog's a resting pose. I'm like, this is not a lot of resting going on here right now.
Well, and it sounds like they need to invest in that more frequently.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Especially, I worked with the Florida Panthers for a couple years too, and
Sure.
hockey players are real, as you know.
Yeah. Tight hips.
Tight hips.
Missing a couple teeth, they'll be all right.
They say we have our issues and our tissues, so we release
Ooh.
the issues in our tissues.
And, you know, speaking of like some breathing, like a lot of the Wim Hof stuff, and it allows you to kind of get into some of the deeper rooted issues, whether it's psychologically driven as far as holding on to these patterns or these traumas, and allowing you to really breathe and stretch into them is allowing you to get them out as well.
That's right.
And move on. Accept it and move on.
Think of all the years that we went to school and no one taught us how to breathe. I never knew how to breathe before yoga. You know, you inhale, your belly's supposed to expand. And as you exhale, it draws in, contracting. So it's almost like your belly button pulls in towards the spine, but no one taught me that. Correct. So how did I know that? And then in different kinds of yoga, you use different kinds of breathing. So in the vinyasa, we use ujjayi, which is probably what you know, in and out through the nose, constricting the back of the throat. But in something like the more stretching restorative, we actually breathe out through the mouth because you're letting go, you're releasing. So I'm sure there's different philosophies for different kinds of yoga as well.
Let's talk a little bit about the business side now. If someone wants to book a one-on-one or join a class or do virtual, tell us a little bit about how that all works.
So it's funny, if you asked me this 2 years ago, I would say, come find me at this studio on this day. And what, you know, so now I've been teaching privates. I do a lot virtually. I have classes for free that people can come to through Mind Body Social, which is an amazing organization. Every month I do a sunrise beach yoga class on Saturdays in Delray. Cool. It's the best way to bring in the month. I've had so many people come and just get so emotional because as they're breathing and flowing and you look out and you're like, there's the sun rising, there are birds flying over the ocean. There's just some magic that unfolds that words can't express, even if you were just watching, if you weren't in the experience. So there are so many ways I connect with people. I've worked with major brands, going to corporate offices, teaching yoga there. I actually had a call on the way here. I taught yoga at Kendra Scott, and I'm going to be doing it again in the fall. Awesome. So it's kind of like, if there are humans around, I can teach a yoga class and I read the audience, and it's just a matter when the student is ready, I'm here.
I actually had a business that I worked for in Australia. It was a college, and the owner of the college used to, like, I think it was the first Friday of every month, bring in like a masseuse, and you would get like a 10-minute like neck, shoulder, and head massage at your desk. And it was paid for, like complimentary, like whatever. And it was just like one of those things where it was like the situation of like just treating yourself a little bit, and like the company morale and just everything was like so high. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, okay, there's definitely benefit to taking care of yourself a little bit and like accepting some TLC from somebody else, right?
Well, with everything that's happened the last year and a half, no better time to invest in yourself than now.
Sure.
Because nobody's going to do it for us. We have to be out there and proactive.
You have to fill your cup so that you don't deplete. If your cup is runneth over, you're able to be the best version for yourself and everyone around you.
Well, it's like the airplane. Like, you got to put your mask on first before you go and put everyone else's on, right?
Correct.
Good analogy.
And you have to realize too that we're very fortunate, and looking at every day as an opportunity versus a curse or whatever it may be. We're very blessed, and just that mindset shift is allowing you for a more productive, more fulfilled day.
Right. You know, our reaction to every situation is up to us. There could be the same person looking at the seaweed on the beach, or you can look at the weather around you, the people around you. It's the same beach. It's just the way you perceive it.
Mm-hmm.
We've all got a different lens, you know?
Fortunately.
Yes.
Yeah,
that was cool. Like, it as well. You walked in and you're like, oh, Media Zone. Like, all right.
I've been here before.
Done a couple of these. But what do you think about the studio? Green screen room, podcast setup?
Yeah. I can't wait to see what else unfolds. I have a feeling we're just touching the iceberg.
That's awesome.
Well, and like we were saying, people want to hire other people to talk on camera for them. And just because you walked in today, like there surely will be something, because you shared a story. That's and right. You know, we shared that, oh, that actually works for our proposals, because we need to include different talent for opportunities like that.
To me, what I was doing before the yoga world, being in front of the camera, uniting people together through their passions, it's the same thing. You know, as I mentioned right before we got on air, if you feel good on the inside, it's going to reflect everything you do on the outside, and vice versa. If you feel a little more put together, your injury is solved or whatever it is, then you're going to feel better. It's kind of like a carousel. You just have to start on one end for it to keep going around.
And the consistency is the key.
Showing up.
Exactly.
Every single day. One day at a time.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, let's, how can we find you online and anyone you want to thank?
I want to thank you guys for having me here. And if you Google Florida Yoga Mama, I will come up everywhere. It's floridayogamama.com, but I'm on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all the social. But Instagram's been my jam lately.
I like it.
Yeah.
So reach out and connect.
Yeah.
And shout out to the husband, right?
Yeah. Thank you for
and
that.
the 3 kids.
And the 3 kids.
Yeah,
and the dog and the mom and the whole
What kind
friends
of
and
puppy?
family. Little Pomeranian.
Oh, boy.
Yep. 13 years old, but he still looks like a little puppy.
You didn't bring him to Media Zone?
I didn't know I
Shame on
could.
you.
I'll bring him next time.
Yeah,
Dog
please.
friendly,
Yeah,
always.
yeah.
Yeah. So cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Palm Beach Podcast. If you'd like to give back and help our show grow, please learn about ways to give and donate at thepalmbeachpodcast.com.